Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, Canine Behaviourist at Good Doggy. So why do our dogs do anything? I mean, this is a pretty huge question to answer in a short video on YouTube, but we're going to talk about the basics of all behaviour. Why do dogs do the things they do? And how do we use that knowledge to help them do the things that we want them to do? So basically that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But the very, very short answer to the question of why do our dogs do what they do is because it works for them. So why is that then? Why do they do some things and not others? There's no coincidence that they've picked the types of behaviours that they're showing you. They've tried lots of things. All day long they're doing different things. They're mooching around, they're barking, they're walking in and out of rooms, and they're watching us. They're noticing things about their environment, and they're seeing really what makes them feel good and what's working for them. So dogs are doing things not just that make them feel good. Stealing a bit of sandwich off your plate when you're not looking might make them feel good, because food is a powerful motivator for most dogs. Sometimes they are doing stuff because it fulfills a need. And when we look at Pavlov's pyramid of needs, we can see all of the things that make up the dog's needs, and they're listed in order of priority. So at the bottom of the pyramid, we have the really important needs. These are the primal ones. Your dog can't live without this stuff. This is food, this is sex, this is sleep. And the further up your pyramid you go, the less important these needs are. But all of a dog's needs are listed here. So everything on this pyramid is important to a dog. So whenever they're performing a behavior, if it makes them feel good, if it fulfills one of these needs, then it's going to be something they're going to want to do more often. So let's talk about attention seeking. In attention seeking, the need is to get attention, is to get us to look at them, to talk to them, to get out of the chair, to do something for them, something in their direction. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be touching, talking, looking. And throughout your dog's day, when he first arrived in your home, whether he was a puppy or an adult, he would have started to notice what gets attention and what doesn't. So he would have figured out really quickly that coming and sitting beside you and looking very cute is not as powerful a way of getting attention as tugging at your trouser leg, for example, or pawing at your lap, or dropping a toy in your lap all the time, or tugging on the curtains. Things like these, we don't ignore those behaviours. And our dogs really quickly figure out that those are the behaviours that get them to their need, that make them feel good, help them achieve their goal better than the stuff that we really wish they would do. Which is odd, isn't it? That we all wish our dogs would just lie peacefully and quietly and snuggle with us and lick our hands and, cozy in beside, all those kinds of things. But that's all of the behaviour that we ignore. We don't respond to that. We don't give our dogs the same level of attention. We don't give them our undivided attention when they're doing that. We might continue to watch TV and just give them a little tickle under their ears. Or maybe your hand reaches out and they get a little bum scratch. But the really good attention comes when they do something actually that we don't want them to do. So inadvertently, we are training them by responding to the unwanted behaviour that they can achieve their goal with behaviour that we don't even want. So this is one example of how a dog can achieve a goal with their behaviour. So it makes them feel good. And they're just going to keep on doing it. In basic training, we teach a dog to sit and he gets a treat. He likes his treat, it makes him feel good, maybe you get lots of praise. So actually now he starts to learn that a sit is a good thing to do, and that will now start to become a habit. He'll keep on doing it. The reverse of that is maybe something like pulling on the lead. When he pulls on the lead, he gets somewhere where he wants to go. So this is achieving a goal again. This is him pulling. He can get to the snuff. He gets closer to the dog he wants to play with. He can get closer to the park. All of these things are rewarding for them. So he's doing that because it's rewarding, because he gets what he wants. When he's off his lead and he wants to go and play with all of his friends, when we're trying to call him back, that need to play, that social need, which is on Maslow's pyramid. It's up near the top, but it's still there. It's important. They're social animals, just like we are social animals. And only so long can they go without interacting with their friends and playing with their friends. But at that moment, his need was to play with his friends. And that was more important to him than our need to get him back, put him on his lead and give him a treat. He didn't need the little treat, but he did need social interaction. So that worked for him. So he didn't come back off his lead to get his lead on because the need to go and play with his friends was stronger than what we had to offer on that occasion. In anxiety, the need to avoid pain, the fear of pain, these are really powerful motivators, and these really appeal to the very bottom of that pyramid. The need to stay safe is more important than most of the needs that are above that. It's more important to feel safe than it is to be sociable. It's more important to feel safe than to learn new things and to be creative. So this is an important need. When a dog performs an action that he believes has kept him safe from fear or pain, the body naturally rewards that with chemicals. He feels really good about that, and he's going to want to keep on doing that. So when we're talking about behaviours that he might think are keeping him safe, we're maybe thinking about separation anxiety, we're talking about reactive behaviour, and any other kind of anxieties. Maybe your dog has fear of fireworks or whatever. So whenever he's experiencing those things, he will be performing behaviours that he believes keep him safe in the long run. So let's imagine a reactive dog out on the walk, and another dog comes into the distance, and he immediately starts barking and lunging at that dog. Maybe he's crying a little bit, spinning on his lead. All of this behavior is happening. This is his emergency defense system. This is his emergency response has kicked in. And now this is how he is responding to that situation. When the situation dies down, he'll do a little post-match recce. He'll have a little think, what did I do? What was the outcome? And in this case, the outcome will be fine because he's not in pain. He didn't get hurt. The other dog left. So it will feel like that behavior was appropriate. It fulfilled that need, and he will feel now very good. That behavior will start to become a habit because it does make him feel good. And separation anxiety, it could be that he cries, barks, maybe he chews through the skirting boards. He's doing something that is, again, expressing that fear of pain, emotional pain this time. He's afraid of being on his own. He's afraid of you not being there with him. And this behavior, doesn't matter how rational it feels to us, we know it makes no difference, but he doesn't know that. All he knows is that you start with a behavior, a trigger will happen, then you'll go through this ritual, and then you'll see what happens at the end. So he's never going to stop doing any of those things while he is still experiencing the relief at the end, while he still believes that works. So the same goes for guarding the territory. If your dog is showing aggression or they're guarding the territory by marking it out, maybe they're barking at people that come by, they're patrolling, they're scent marking, all of these guarding behaviours. Maybe he's on the back of the sofa watching the window. He's watching that kind of lookout area. He's keeping an eye on everything that's going on around him. And every time he performs those behaviours and his fear does not come true, if he's guarding the territory, the fear will be that somebody comes into the territory and they threaten your resources, threaten the family, threaten him, whatever it is. As long as that gets avoided, these behaviours will become stronger and stronger and stronger because the body is rewarding them. So like, let's think about the postman perhaps that comes past every single day. So your dog's in his lookout spot. He notices the postman is coming. Maybe he hears him. Perhaps he hears the gates 3 doors down, and that alerts him to the fact that the postman is now on his way. And now he goes into guarding mode, and he's guarding the territory. He's barking. He's being very alert. He's listening intently. And as the postman comes closer to the house, this will all grow in intensity. And it might become very aggressive. Even maybe he runs to the front door. Maybe he's grabbing at the post now. He's grabbing at the basket on the back of the post box. All of this kind of stuff is happening. And then the postman leaves and he goes away. and everything is fine. And your dog will now believe that all of that ritual behavior that he's just performed has kept everybody safe from this postman. And now, of course, remember that this is going to happen almost every day. The postman is going to come past the house, and this ritual is going to continue to repeat itself. And if it's not the postman, it'll be passers-by, it'll be dog walkers, it'll be the bin men, it's delivery guys bringing your Chinese takeaway, it's the Amazon man, it's Hermes, it's all of these people that keep coming, not just to your own house, but also to the ones nearby. Your dog is going to see these behaviors repeat themselves over and over again, and he is going to be feeling pretty powerful by the time he has finished guarding your house all day long, and successfully so as well. So it works. That aggressive behavior keeps everybody safe. He sees them coming, he scares them away. Every single time that's happening, this behavior is making him feel good, it's fulfilling a need, it's fulfilling a goal, and he's going to keep on doing it. So let's think about when we start to try and change that kind of behavior. I imagine if you're watching this video, you've tried changing your dog's behavior already, and maybe you have struggled in some way or another. Probably the reason why is because when you've tried to attempt to change something, you haven't addressed the goal. The goal part is the important thing. So what you need to know about your dog's behavior is you need to know what triggered it and what the goal was. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find a new behavior that goes in the middle between the trigger and between the goal being met. So what goes wrong is that we ignore the goal part. So for example, a dog that jumps up at people as they come through the front door. Really typical piece of advice you might get on the internet is to ignore the dog when you come in. Make yourself really boring. Don't move too much. Don't really acknowledge it. Wait until it calms down, because it's attention-seeking behavior and it's not going to stop until it stops working. We know that, except for the dog needs attention. So if we don't give them a way to achieve the goal without going through that unwanted behavior, we might see some temporary results, but eventually they just go back to the way they were. If we want our dog to ignore other dogs when we're in the park, maybe they're just really overexcited and we are walking our dog in the park and they're pulling on the lead because they can see their friends and all they want to do is run over to their friends and play and have a great time, and we're trying to teach them just to ignore that, then again, we're going to get temporary results, because the dog's goal is to be sociable. He needs to fulfill his social need. He needs to play. He needs to mix with his own kind. And whilst the middle behavior is an unwanted behavior, you can't have a dog, even a small dog will probably get away with it. But when the bigger the dog gets, the harder it is. You can't have a dog pulling and lunging and scraping and crying on their lead to get to another dog. That's going to be a safety kind of issue, as well as the fact that really it's not very much fun to walk a dog that's like that. And emotionally, we know that our dogs are not balanced if they're behaving like that. So there's lots of good reasons to solve this problem. But again, typical advice will say we should teach the dogs some self-control. We should teach them to watch us. We should teach them to ignore other dogs. And we should teach them to be sort of almost sterile to their environment, to not respond to it, not react to any of it, and really just to focus on us. But because that hasn't addressed the need, that need will just eventually get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then the behavior starts to crumble and everything starts to go wrong. And then you don't get the results that you want. So we need to create a way of getting them from point A trigger to point C goal without going through that middle behavior. So how do we do that? Well, we've already talked about stopping the middle behavior working. So once we've figured out what the trigger is and what the goal is, then we need to stop the middle behavior fulfilling the goal. So let's talk about perhaps lead walking. Let's talk about pulling on the lead. When your dog is pulling on the lead, they achieve a goal because they get to go somewhere. So we need to stop that from happening. That's the first thing. I go into a lot more detail about lead pulling and how that works in a different video, so definitely check that out. But basically what the process is that when the lead goes tight, you're going to stop. So it means that behavior is now not working, but we know that the goal is to get somewhere. So when the lead goes loose, we allow them to fulfill the goal. So the goal is to keep moving. So we take that away from the behavior we don't want, the lead pulling, and then we attach it to a behavior that we do want, which is the calm, gentle, not pulling on the lead behavior, loose lead. And we can work through all these examples and find ways to do all of it. So attention seeking. We need to pick a new behavior that we would like instead. So maybe you pick a toy that your dog can bring you, and without fail, no matter what, if that dog brings your toy to you, you will always play with them. So we now can ignore the behavior, which is what the advice on the internet tells you to do. But we can address the goal by giving them a way to guarantee getting attention from you. And when you decide to do this, you have to see it through. You have to be 100% sure that you will always play with that toy. If you're sitting on the loo and they bring it into you, you need a free hand so you can play. If you're at the computer and you're doing something, you need a free hand so you can play. Because we have to give them that guaranteed way, fulfilling their goal without having to go through the middle behavior. The dog that's barking at the territory, the dog that's barking at the postman. If we can get him away from that window, so we know the trigger is the postman, we can see the postman is arriving, we move them away from the window, you can distract them long enough, they don't get to go through this unwanted behavior. The end goal is still the same. We don't actually have to do anything for that because the postman is still going to leave. He always was. He was never going to come into our house, but our dog does not know that. So we have to prove to him that safety can happen without this middle behavior. And there's lots of different ways you can try and do that. Creating some distance away from the front door is a good one. Maybe he can hear the gate. Perhaps you can use a lead and you can guide him away from the front door so he's far enough away that he's out of his comfort zone. He knows the postman is there, but he's not close enough that he's compelled to go through this ritual. You know, the more we filter a behavior, the more we kind of dilute it for our dogs, whether we take them further away from it or make it quieter, or, you know, perhaps we remove one of the senses, perhaps we don't let them see it, but they can hear it, that kind of thing. The more we can do that, the easier we make it for them to perform something new. The reactive dog in the park, the further you are away from another dog, the more likely it is your dog's going to be responsive to you and not the situation. So if you can create enough space, your dog will see the dog in the distance. They'll be uncomfortable about that. They'll be thinking about the other dog, but their brain is still very much alert and aware of you and aware of your environment, and they're still able to perform things they know really well. So they might be able to walk on a loose lead beside you when you're far away from another dog, or maybe they'll be able to sit for you, or maybe they'll be able to concentrate on a toy. So whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to make that space. You're going to help them perform a new behavior that will also lead to the goal. So for the reactive dog, the trigger is the dog. The new behavior is looking at you, doing something, perhaps playing a little game, maybe you're doing sniffy games, whatever it is. The goal is still the same, safety. So when the other dog now disappears out of their sight, they still feel good. They still feel that they survived and they're fine. So this is how we get from point A to point C. We redirect that middle part, and it's not always very easy, but sometimes it's easier than we think. And often we focus on this middle part far too much, and we don't think about the end goal. What is the dog's goal? So how can we fulfill that? Separation anxiety was another example that I gave. And this is a tricky one because lots of people feel like actually they're not even in the house when a lot of this is happening. So how can we help them? But more of it happens before you leave the house than you think. Your dog, if they have genuine separation anxiety, will have already associated lots of other actions with you leaving them. So again, go back to that behavior sequences video and watch that, because that talks you through how this whole process works and how you can link behaviors together. And that's what they do. So they will associate particular shoes, particular coat, maybe a different handbag, maybe a lunchbox, whatever, with you going to work. And then you'll have a whole new set of things that you wear or use whenever you're going to take them for a walk. Different keys, maybe different commands. Maybe the dog's got his lead on. There'll be all different clues that lets your dog know that when you start moving around, are you going with them or are you going to leave without them? And the ones that are surefire indications that you're going to leave without him now will start to trigger anxiety. So you won't even have to leave the house when you first start doing this. You can start performing these actions in the house and end with safety. So you can, the trigger is picking up the keys, walking to the door, and then going back and putting the keys down and sitting back down in your chair again. Then your dog will feel safe. So you've kind of pushed them a little bit out of their comfort zone. They've started to think something was going to happen, and then you've brought them back again. So they've gone from the trigger, knowing you're going to leave them. They didn't panic in the middle because you didn't get far enough through the sequence, and then they got safe. So they will start to now associate that little section of being left on their own with safety. And you can just grow that. That middle part will just grow. So maybe it's just keys to start with, then it's keys and shoes, keys, shoes, bag. Then maybe you're out the door, back in again, and so on. You're just going to keep growing that and growing that and growing that. But the basics of it is that a dog does this stuff because it works. The way to solve that and the way to change these middle behaviours that we don't want is to figure out the trigger, figure out the behaviour, and then figure out the goal. Then we can change the new behaviour and help them achieve their goal in a different way. Once you do that, they'll be able to switch behaviours much, much more quickly. And they'll start doing the new thing, not just for you, but for them as well. See you in the next video. Take care for now.